Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about editing photos in Lightroom, specifically photos taken with the Leica M10. I had the great opportunity to use this camera in Yosemite a couple months ago. Huge thank you to Leica for lending that camera out to me. I had gone out to Yosemite to take photos of the Firefall event that happens once a year in Yosemite. Now, if you're familiar with this event, you already know that this year it did not take place. But I was still in Yosemite, one of the most beautiful places on the planet, and I still had a Leica M10, so I fired off a ton of photographs, and I'm going to go through those with you today. I'm going to talk about the DNG raw files that come out of the M10, show you some of the good, some of the bad, and just show you some of my editing process. So let's jump right over to the computer and jump into Lightroom. All right, we are at the computer here, and I've got Lightroom opened up, and I've got 3 images that I'm going to share with you guys that I took over the weekend in Yosemite. Quite a while ago now. This first one is of my friend Brandon. He's sporting some pretty awesome gear around his neck, and we're up against some huge sequoias. So the first thing I'm going to do is adjust the exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. These are all minor adjustments that I do on every one of the images that I take, so I'm going to quickly go through those. There's a lot of greens in this photo. Brandon's wearing green, there's green on the trees, very green image, so I'm going to turn that saturation down a decent amount and kind of sort of kill a lot of the color. Now, after doing all of my minor adjustments with exposure and lighting and all of those things, I'm going to jump down straight to the colors. I'm going to avoid the tone curve altogether. I'm not going to touch that for this image. What I am going to be doing the majority of my editing, the things that are going to make this image different, are all going to be taking place down here in the HSL color tab. So I'm going to start with the greens, and I'm going to bring those down quite a bit. This image has a lot of green in it. Like I said already, there's a lot of green around Brandon in the trees. He's wearing green as well, so a very green image. I'm going to take those down quite a bit. I'm also going to take the yellows down quite a bit because I know that there's a decent amount of yellow in these greens. And then finally, I'm going to bring the oranges up a lot. I want this image to look warm. I like my images to be very warm. That's pretty good. I'm going to make a couple of little minor adjustments, bring out the colors that I need, maybe to bring the greens up just a little bit, and I'm happy with that. That looks pretty dang good. Now, moving on to the next image, I've got this shot of El Capitan that I took right after sunrise. You can see that morning light on the face of El Cap. And if you're familiar with Yosemite at all, you know exactly where this spot is. There's a bunch of tripods always set up, taking images right at this spot over the Merced. And what I've done here is I've blown this image out way too much. And this is one of the faults that I see in the DNG raw files coming out of the Leica M10. If I was shooting this picture with my A7 III, my Sony A7 III, I really think that I would be able to recover the majority of these highlights. And the reason that I shot it this way is because I didn't want to lose all of my shadows. Now, I haven't used the Leica M10 very much, so I have no idea how this was going to turn out. But in the end, I found that I pretty much lost all of the highlights. I was obviously a couple stops, probably 2 to 4 stops overexposed here, but I've lost all of the detail in the rock, in El Capitan, and in the sky. I cannot recover any of these highlights. So the reason I wanted to mention that was if you're using an M10 or if you're familiar with this system, I would highly recommend to not overexpose, as you will lose everything in the highlights, which is, it's a bummer. But I learned from my mistake, and I went on to make sure that I would underexpose, if anything, for all of my future photographs. So I just wanted to mention that to you guys. Now, this third photo and the final photo that I'm going to edit for you was taken also in that same morning. And again, it's of El Capitan on the road leading into the park. This is a pretty iconic spot. You've probably seen plenty of photos from it, but there was nobody out on the road, so I took the opportunity to jump out of the car and snap this photo. The first thing that I notice is that I obviously have lost a lot in the shadows. It's pretty dark, but like I just said, I learned from my mistake of overexposing and decided to underexpose. And one thing that is nice about this camera is you can really bring out a lot of the details in the shadows. I was able to I'm first going to warm this image up because I know that it looked a whole lot warmer than this picture is portraying it to be. I think it just happens to have a lot of blue in this image, very, very blue. I'm going to bring the exposure down just a tad, and then I'm going to mess with all of these other sliders to kind of bring out some details in the shadows and to more evenly expose this image. While that already looks way better than what we started with, I am going to jump down into the colors now and mess with these sliders just a little bit, bring out some reds, bring out some orange and some yellow. I happen to know that the rock looked pretty orange that morning. I'm pretty happy with this right here. I'm going to put a little bit of heat in the shadows, give it a little bit of warmth there. And I'm pretty much done. I'm really happy with this image. I am super stoked with how the images turned out, and I really loved using this Leica M10. So thank you again, Leica, for loaning this out to me. If you guys like this video, of course, smash that like button. If you want to see more pictures that I've taken, go and follow me on Instagram at Isaiah Photo. You guys, if you're not already subscribed, subscribe to my channel. Wow, that was a long outro. I will see you all in the next one. Peace, guys.